my goodness. Good morning, good afternoon. Whatever it is for you, I hope you're having a fantastic day. My name is Zach Schomler. This is Strong Opinion Sports, episode 555. Welcome in. Got a good show today. I'm going to pretend that I didn't just do the intro like 7 times and screw it up. I don't know how that's possible, by the way. I've done this show for 555 episodes. You would think I got that down absolutely, but I believe it or not, I fumbled my words today. I don't know what's going on. I have no idea. What a weird life I live. Like, you think I would know that spiel by heart, and I thought I did until this very moment. Today's show is going to be fun. We're going to talk about 6 teams that I would call bad NFL teams. I'm going to share an idea I have that I think could make college football better and simultaneously produce better quarterbacks for both college and the NFL. I'm going to ask a fun question, which is, who could win the NFL Coach of the Year? We're going to talk about Carolina, Frank Reich, Bryce Young. Gardner Minshew makes an appearance in today's episode, not like on the show, but we're going to talk about him a lot. I'm going to talk about Messi, just like a tiny bit. I'm going to mention Messi, and then we're going to do Patreon questions. So buckle in, enjoy the show. And I think first to warm up, I notice this about myself. I have to like talk about something just for a brief moment to like settle into the show. And I want to let you know, I went down a rabbit hole last night. I go to bed at 9 o'clock every night. I try to go to bed at 9, wake up at 6, go to the water, work out a little bit, go for a swim. I'm trying really hard to be like a responsible adult. However, every night I go to bed at 9 and I stay up till like 10 o'clock on my phone going down some kind of internet rabbit hole. Usually it's something sports related, like, oh my God, did you see this quarterback? He did this and did that. And I do a bunch of research on like Phil Simms from the 1993 season that is like, Zach, why are you going down this rabbit hole? But last night, I ended up watching the UFO congressional hearing for like an hour and a half, which is ridiculous. I went to bed way too late. I was watching this like wild video where you're hearing Congress talk about UFOs. And I don't know if that's a political topic or not. UFOs, the government's technically involved with, it's a congressional hearing, but I just want to say, like, the kid brain in me that always wanted aliens to be real and loves, if I could do anything, I would travel space. Like, I would give more than you could even imagine to be like, jumped into the future and be part of like some future Starfleet from Star Trek or something. I would give anything to be, go out into space and be an explorer. And to me, like, aliens get mentioned and I'm like, what? Oh my gosh. And I don't know if I'm the only one, but that's a fun rabbit hole. I'm almost like, I don't know how I could ever turn it into content, but it would be so fun to like break down that 2-hour, congressional hearing and find all the nuggets of information and make a video like saying, here's what we kind of heard and what was talked about. I don't know. But it's like politics adjacent, so I'm going to avoid it completely. But I don't know. Let me know. Am I the only person who is watching our government talk about UFOs and was kind of like, what? This is crazy, and no one's talking about it. And I'm like, why is this not the biggest deal ever? I don't know. To me, it's a big deal, and the rabbit hole I went down last night was so fun. And I don't know, enough about non-sports stuff. Here's a fun line of thinking, I believe. If you're not a good NFL team, what are you? If you're not good, I think you're bad. And so here are 6 bad NFL teams. Now, being bad doesn't mean you can't be exciting or that you can't have a fun season. I think that the Chicago Bears are a team that is exactly that. They're not going to win a lot of games, but certainly their fan base is going to have a lot of fun to look forward to. I'm really hoping that Bears fans can be patient and let go of the bad things they're going to see this fall, because it's going to be up and down, kind of a roller coaster. But if you can let go of the bad and be emotionally prepared for them, and then enjoy the good moments, there's going to be a lot of good and a lot of fun to watch on the field in Chicago this fall. Like, quarterback Justin Fields in Chicago is a star in the making. He's going to make big plays and do crazy stuff. I think the offensive line is better this year than they were last year. The receiving core is better than they were last year. However, the Bears defense last year allowed more points than any other NFL team. I am really concerned about their defense. Their big addition this offseason, they added 2 linebackers, Tremaine Edmonds and TJ Edwards. By the way, they massively overpaid for Tremaine Edmonds. I am not really sure how adding 2 linebackers is going to instantly make the Bears defense way better. We'll see. I hope I'm totally wrong. But to me, I look at Chicago. they're a team that does not have a great pass rush, so they can't make quarterbacks uncomfortable. They're not going to get pressure on opposing quarterbacks, and that's going to hurt Chicago a ton. They're one of the teams around the NFL that when you play them, you're going to be comfortable in the pocket all day and have no trouble throwing the football. I'm also highly skeptical of head coach Matt Eberflus. Look, he was a good defensive coordinator in Indy before he got the job. Seems like an awesome guy. Like Matt Eberflus, I don't mean to hate on him. Like he seems like a guy that I would like to play for, who treats people well, develops good culture, does all like the human being stuff really, really well. But as a defensive head coach, I'm not sure he's the right head coach to be, overseeing a team with this developing young quarterback, Justin Fields, who's a star in the making. Like, shouldn't we get more of an offensive-minded head coach? That's question number one. But also, the defense last year was garbage, and that's supposed to be his calling card. What? We'll see. Maybe the Bears' defense gets way better this year. The offense is certainly going to be really exciting, but the Bears' defense has me really, really skeptical, and I don't believe that having a great offense with a terrible defense and I love Justin Fields. It's still going to be a year of him learning and growing, I believe, despite the fact that he's going to make amazing plays and you're going to go, whoa, okay, I believe it. I get it. Anyone who's skeptical of Justin Fields is going to walk away at the end of this year going, I get it. But they're going to say, can we get a better team around him? Can we maybe get a better head coach is maybe a question we're going to be asking in January 2024. So I don't believe that all of the stuff that Justin Fields is going to do is going to lead to much winning, but it's certainly going to be a really fun year in Chicago. I think they're going to surprise some people a couple times this year, but I still don't see them being a great team winning a lot of games this fall. Now, some teams that are bad, Chicago is a team that's exciting and fun. They're not going to be a great team, but there's still a lot to look forward to. Some teams that are bad are just awful. Some teams do not provide any reason for excitement or joy. And the Arizona Cardinals are... Oh, you know what? Hold on. The tsunami warning signal's going off. So we're going to wait for that to come and go. I don't know if you can hear that in the background. I forgot. It's August 1st, and they test it on the 1st of every month right around noon. That's what is happening here. So if you can hear this insane sound in the background, I apologize. If you can't, I have no idea. But I'm going to cut, and we will continue the show in a moment. Okay, here's the good news. There is no tsunami currently, and if one does come, Honolulu's warning system is working as they test every first of the month, and it is still working today. So we heard it. It was loud. I don't know if you actually heard it in the background. I heard it, and I wanted to wait till it passed. As I was saying, let's talk about the Arizona Cardinals. In my opinion, the Arizona Cardinals are the worst team in the NFL by a lot. They're a poorly run franchise with a first-year defensive head coach, Jonathan Gannon, who he comes across like a goofball. There's a couple videos of him already circulating around the world that you're like, he said what? He did what? He did who? What happened? And you're like, this guy is kind of a nutball. Is he really the grown-up that the Cardinals need to get their fan base on the right track and get their franchise on the right track? I'm not sure. Quarterback Kyler Murray tore his ACL in December last year. Kyler keeps saying, I'm trying to get back for week 1. Truly, no one has any idea, though, when Kyler Murray is going to play football next. I don't know that it makes sense for Kyler Murray to try to fight back for week 1 when they're a bad football team that's got not a lot of hope for this year. If I'm the Cardinals, I'm frankly, I'm trying to lose. Like, I don't... Look, their quarterback's likely going to be Colt McCoy. You had the most cap space in the NFL this offseason and did absolutely nothing. So to me, I'm not sure Arizona's even trying to win. The roster's horrible, and they've got motivation to lose because the Cardinals have 2 first-round picks in 2024. They've got their own first-round pick and the Houston Texans' first-round pick. Both of them could end up being top 5 picks. So if I'm the Cardinals, I've got no hurry to get Kyler Murray back onto the field. I'm dragging my feet. I'm trying to lose as much as I can and then have as high of a draft pick as humanly possible for next year so that you can make a couple really big picks, possibly 2 top 5 picks, and rebuild your franchise. The offensive line is going to struggle in Arizona. They're going to get lit up by Seattle because their secondary is going to struggle. Their only real notable player on defense is Budda Baker, and he can only do so much. So to me, the Arizona Cardinals are not only the worst team in the NFC West, but they're also the worst team in the NFL in general. This is a team that they're on watch for Caleb Williams or Drake May. It's very likely that the Cardinals are going to have the number 1 overall pick next fall. And maybe if the Houston Texans are bad, could have like the number 1 pick and the number 3 or 4 pick as well. So keep your eye on the Arizona Cardinals. If I'm a Cardinals fan, quite frankly, I don't want my team to win. I want as bad a year as possible to try to get that number 1 overall pick. And they're the team right now that's kind of eyeing that number 1 pick already. They're horrible. So the Cardinals are terrible. The Rams are also awful, but they're not as bad as Arizona. The Rams still have their 3-star players, quarterback Matthew Stafford, Cooper Kupp at receiver, defensive tackle Aaron Donald. But after those 3 great players, there's not a lot else in LA with the Rams. The Rams have $72 million in dead cap, meaning that they are paying money to players who are no longer on their football team. It's a massive amount of money. So literally, not even figurative, but literally the Rams are still paying for their Super Bowl 2 years ago. To me, that's worth it. You pay the price. You won the Super Bowl. It's great. Can you imagine if the Rams didn't win the Super Bowl? They got that far. They paid all that money and didn't win. Thank goodness they won. But this year, because of the Super Bowl, all the money they spent to win that Super Bowl, it's going to be ugly. And frankly, I'm surprised that the LA Rams kept their 3-star players. It sounds like they tried to trade Matthew Stafford this offseason, but nobody wanted him, or his contract is coming off of an injury. I could see Cooper Kupp and Aaron Donald moved at the trade deadline, but the Rams are a team that, gosh, man, they got a couple young players they're looking forward to watching. They're like, hey, maybe this guy or that guy can do well, but for the most part, the Rams are terrible, and it's going to be an ugly year for them as well. Here's another team, though, that similar to Chicago, I believe there's a lot to look forward to for the Houston Texans. They're not going to win many games this fall, but Houston, they're rebuilding. Expecting wins is silly, and their year is all about the development of their young rookie quarterback, 2nd overall pick, C.J. Stroud. But I think he's going to be fun to watch. I think that what's going to happen in Houston is a team that they're going to have growing pains, and they're going to have a couple young receivers, Nico Collins, John Mechie, Tank Dell. But the young guys you get to watch, pass rusher Will Anderson, the number 3 overall pick, he's going to be fun to watch develop. Houston's a young team with a first-year head coach, D'Amico Ryans, former player, love him, great defensive coach. I think he's the right guy to establish a winning culture in Houston. He's that rare. I'm not a huge fan of first-year coaches, of defensive head coaches. However, I think given how bad historically Houston has been, how unattractive they are as a franchise, no one wants to go work there. They hired the best coach they possibly could to try to right the ship and get them on track from an organizational standpoint and, make them respectable. And mistakes are going to be made, man. The joy of this team this year is going to be watching them get better from week 1 to week 18. But you got to understand that growing and improving is often a very painful process. And so I think this fall is going to have a lot of ugly moments for Houston that in a couple of years from now, you're going to look back and go, that was worth it because now we're winning and things are good. But I ask Texans fans, be patient with your team this year. There's a couple of reasons to be excited, a couple fun things, but for the most part, it's a team that's not going to win a lot of games. And they might hang around a couple times this year, be in games, be in moments. They fall short. But again, the joy of this team this year is watching the young guys they have in Houston develop and get better, and as they build towards eventually becoming a winning franchise. Now, the Raiders are bad. I feel sorry for Raiders fans. I'm sorry to say this. I'm sorry to bring you bad news. Here is why I'm not a big believer in the Raiders this fall. I'm really, really skeptical of their head coach, Josh McDaniels. Josh McDaniels was a disaster last time he was a head coach in Denver. And last year, his first year with the Raiders didn't go well either. Remember, he's supposed to be this quarterback genius, offensive mind. It seemed like Josh McDaniels actually broke former Raiders quarterback Derek Carr. And now the Raiders made this amazing, impressive move. They went from Derek Carr to Jimmy Garoppolo at quarterback. Woo! Oh, my goodness. And I really believe that Jimmy G is going to be a stabilizing force, meaning he's going to be a veteran presence. He's going to do a lot of little things right. He's not the worst quarterback you could possibly have, but let's also acknowledge Jimmy Garoppolo has limitations, and I'm not even sure he's going to stay healthy. Jimmy Garoppolo's only played 1 full year of football in his entire career, 2019. Otherwise, he gets hurt every single year. And so when you look at the coach, I've got concerns. When you look at the quarterback, I've got concerns. Other than Marcus Peters, the secondary isn't very good. They're going to struggle in pass coverage. The offensive line last year struggled, especially at guard, and they didn't make any replacements. The guard position, we'll see if they get better, but they didn't make any moves to try to get better on the offensive line at guard. To me, the Raiders are the worst team in the AFC West, which, not the worst thing ever. It's a great division full of really good, talented football teams, but I look at the Raiders' schedule. It's really tough. They're probably going to start 0-4. It doesn't get easier after that, and to me, that is why I believe the Raiders are a bad team that's going to have a pretty tough year this year. We'll see. Hey, maybe Jimmy Garoppolo wins the NFL MVP. He's amazing, throws for like 48 touchdowns, and you're like, Zach, you're an idiot. But do Raiders fans really believe do Raiders fans really believe Jimmy Garoppolo? Do you really believe Jimmy Garoppolo is the guy to help you become a winning franchise again? I'd love to be wrong here, but I'm not a big Jimmy Garoppolo believer, nor am I a believer in the head coach. And you look at that, then a couple weaknesses on the roster. I'm like, guys, what are we doing here? Are we really going to pretend the Raiders are a great football team this year? Time will tell. You can be mad at me, but I think I'm saying what, unfortunately, Raiders fans already know. Okay, got one more bad team, one final team here to talk about. It's the Indianapolis Colts. The Colts are a weird football team because they actually have a lot of good players. They've got players that are good. Unfortunately, they're at positions that are of low impact. Guard, linebacker, defensive tackle. Now, their quarterback for a while is going to be Gardner Minshew. Gardner Minshew is a quarterback that I absolutely love. It's my favorite, probably, personality in football. He's just a guy who, he realizes he's living on borrowed time and makes the best of every little moment he has in his NFL career. Who knows when rookie quarterback Anthony Richardson is going to play and be ready to go. We really have no idea. I think the longer you can keep him on the bench to watch and learn, the better. You know, Anthony Richardson only started 13 games in college. He's really raw and needs to develop quite a bit. I love Minshew. He's limited, though. He's not going to take this team, I think, as far as, how do I say this? I don't think you can take a bad football team with Gardner Minshew and win a lot of games. I think maybe Gardner Minshew could win with a great team around him. He did pretty well in Philly last year as a backup. But I look at Indy. I'm concerned about their secondary. They've got two rookies in the rotation at corner. That's going to be Juju Brents, a second-round pick, and Darius Rush, a fifth-round pick. On top of that, I'm worried about the pass rush for the Colts. They haven't been able to get after quarterbacks very much. And when you look at youth at corner plus a weaker pass rush, I'm like, that's not very confidence-inspiring. I've got questions at receiver. They've got Michael Pittman Jr., a really good stud receiver. But other than him, not a lot's going on. Now, I want to add a caveat there. I'm curious if rookie third-round pick Josh Downs can make an impact. Kid out of North Carolina. Maybe he's the next great slot receiver. He's got really good hands. A couple plays in college, he went up and got the ball in a jump ball scenario. He's quick. He's speedy. I would like to see Josh Downs become, their Julian Edelman type receiver in Indy, but we'll see. They've also now got big questions at running back. Jonathan Taylor doesn't appear to be playing. Zach Moss broke his arm. I really like the Colts' future. They've got a couple, like their left tackle, Raymond, is a guy who, he's entering his second year. He's a guy that I want to see make a lot of progress and get better. And I really like the good players the Colts have drafted recently. I really believe in their general manager, Chris Ballard. I like where the Colts are heading as an organization. So I like where they're going long-term, but short-term it's going to be rough. So I still think the Colts are a bad team this year, and it's just going to take time. Give them a couple of years, I think they'll be better. But if you're a Colts fan, you got to be realistic. It's going to be a rough year, and you're not a very good team. But in time, that could change. All right, so those are 6 bad NFL teams. What did I say? The Cardinals, the Rams, the Bears, the Houston Texans, the Raiders, and the Colts. All right, I absolutely love quarterback Gardner Minshew. I was at Washington State when he was at Washington State. I was around him often. I saw him firsthand as a leader. I learned a lot by watching Gardner Minshew at Washington State. To me, he's like such an inspiring story. He was a quarterback at Eastern Carolina who wanted to transfer out because they didn't really want him. He was given an opportunity to be the third-string quarterback at Alabama in college behind Jalen Hurts and Tua. And, he literally said Nick Saban didn't believe in him really as a quarterback, but he believed in him enough to keep him around and maybe eventually become a coach, and said, hey, I don't know that you're ever going to get on the field, but Nick Saban said, I like you. Come here. You can be a graduate assistant in time, and you can use Alabama to become a good coach long term. And then Mike Leach called him and said, you want to hold a clipboard, or do you want to maybe lead the NCAA in passing? He went to Washington State, was amazing. The rest is history. I love that story. I love a guy who was doubted and not believed in, going from, he's still a guy who's doubted. I just did a whole topic about how, I think he's on a bad team and can't take them very far. But there's an article that recently came out. It's on ESPN. Ryan Hawkinsmith wrote it. It's called The Wild Life of Gardner Minshew. It's such great writing. It almost made me cry. That might have been the fact that I had Post Malone singing Big Jet Plane in the background. Maybe that was it. I'm not sure. However, I read this article with that in the background, and it got me. I was like, man, this is a really well-written article. I think it's rare to see truly great writing these days. A lot of people, if you're a good writer, you put your effort more into making videos or podcasts because it's hard to monetize article writing. But Ryan Hawkinsmith, round of applause. What a great article. I recommend you read it, The Wild Life of Gardner Minshew. I want to talk about a couple things I read during it, but truly, anything I can say is my own coloring. You're going to get more from just reading it. So maybe you listen to what I have to say, then go read it later. But I really recommend reading The Wild Life of Gardner Minshew by Ryan Hawkinsmith on ESPN. I don't do that very often. I recommend a really great article, but this is one that, if you like Gardner Minshew, what a well-written, great piece of work. Gardner Minshew's story is one of being constantly doubted and having people not believe in him. And it meant so much to him when Mike Leach believed in him and gave him a shot. And now I look at Gardner Minshew, a guy who's completely overachieved, and he's enjoying the ride and seems to acknowledge he's on borrowed time. He's made a couple $1 million in the NFL. It's stuff that was never supposed to happen. And at some point, Anthony Richardson is going to become the starting quarterback in Indy. It's just fact. He's bigger, better athlete, more talented, more potential. And one thing I learned in this article written by Hawkinsmith is that Minshew acknowledges that learning from Nick Foles, who they overlapped briefly together in Jacksonville, Gardner Minshew learned from Nick Foles how to handle going from the starter to the backup quarterback and kind of floating between. And Gardner Minshew is this guy who, his entire NFL career is going to be a guy who's good enough to start a little bit, but never be your long-term starter, because there's always going to be guys with more potential who can throw the ball farther with a bigger arm and run for more yards. He's limited as an athlete. And so Gardner Minshew will never become a franchise quarterback. That's the sad reality. But I really believe he's good enough to play at a good level and be a starting quarterback to some degree in the NFL. So he's always going to be that fringe worst starter in the NFL to best backup in the NFL, right in that category somewhere. And he learned how to handle that type of role by being around Nick Foles, a guy who's legendary for doing that. Nick Foles, he's had the weirdest career ever, and I think Gardner Minshew is going to end up being a guy similar, where you're like, wow, he always did well when he got a shot. He could play a little bit. And I just really love Gardner Minshew. He's got this special relationship with his dad, who his dad always believed in him, maybe at times when no one else would. And there's this heartbreaking story. When he was at Eastern Carolina, he made his first ever start in college, and at halftime got benched. And it was, I would imagine, reading this article, reading about it, was this moment where it kind of broke him, and maybe he didn't feel like, no one believes in me, no one wants me. And during his first start at Washington State, his senior year, his final year in college football, he's transferred out of East Carolina to go to Washington State to be their starting quarterback. And he didn't play great in the first half of their very first game. And Mike Leach and him were talking at halftime. He's like, am I still going to go back out there? Which is like a rare thing. I would have never imagined Gardner Minshew, one of the most confident people I've ever been around. The guy who, he exudes confidence. He always, when no one else believes in him, he believes in himself. It's interesting to hear that Gardner Minshew had a moment of doubt. That first game his senior year, first game at Washington State, played rough at halftime, and he was having flashbacks to getting benched at East Carolina at halftime. And Mike Leach was like, what are you talking about? Like, you better be ready. We need you in the third quarter, right? He believed in him through thick and thin. And ever since that moment, Gardner Minshew hasn't looked back. I think that's literally what Ryan Hawkinsmith wrote in the article. And I love that, man. Gardner Minshew to me He's real. He's authentic. He's got this cool perspective of a guy who, again, the word borrowed time comes to mind. None of this was supposed to happen. He was supposed to be a coach. He was never supposed to play at Washington State, never supposed to become an NFL quarterback, make a couple $1 million. And so I think he enjoys it and appreciates it more than almost anyone else in their position. And he loves the game of football. Gardner Minshew to me is it's the dream. It's a short quarterback's dream. He's not short, I guess, but he's not physically super talented, but he made it. He played well. He worked hard. He got himself in a position. That's the kind of stuff. He's what I wanted to be. I think a lot of quarterbacks around the world and around the country in high school feel that way. Like, hey, I'm not 6'5". I don't have the biggest arm. I'm not the fastest guy, but we all wish we could maximize our talents. That's what Gardner Minshew did. And I don't know, man. As a former quarterback, watching Gardner Minshew, his story, all of it, it's inspiring. It's cool. I love the guy. And I love his approach to life. This moment and this feeling of, I'm going to enjoy everything I possibly can and make the most of every opportunity I get because none of it was really supposed to happen anyway. I love that so much. And that perspective is one that I think can carry you in so many aspects of life. And I just wanted to share. I love Gardner Minshew. I love this article. I recommend you read it. And gosh, man, if anyone's rooting for Gardner Minshew this fall, it's me. I'm skeptical of him. I'm not sure how long he's going to last. I don't know how much they're going to win, but I want it very clear. If he has this miraculous year and plays incredible and has like the best year ever, there will not be anyone more happy for Gardner Minshew than maybe me and his father. Like I am so excited, and I don't want to get excited, man. I feel like I've been let down and been through a lot of really tough things in my life, and I don't want another painful, disappointing thing to happen in my life. But man, I am really hoping that I don't want to let myself believe, but I really want to see Gardner Minshew do well. It would be so cool to me. And oh man, it just would be awesome. I really, this article, man, it really spoke to me. I love him as a person, and I would just really, really love to see Gardner Minshew come out and play really, really high level football this fall in Indy. All right. This is a weird thing to say, but I've been thinking a lot about 49ers quarterback Sam Darnold. I have. It's true. I was walking around the other day. I don't know how this happened. You know what? I think I saw a picture of the 49ers practice facilities, really what happened. I was like, ooh, what a nice building. Like, what a nice place to go to work is what I thought. And then I went down this rabbit hole and I thought about Sam Darnold, the 49ers quarterback. Currently, I believe he's their number 2 quarterback behind Brock Purdy. And I'm just so happy for Sam Darnold. He's in a situation where there's not really any expectations of him. He can show up to work, do the very best he can, and through the highs and the lows, there's not a lot of scrutiny on him. There's no pressure. He's working in a building that's a great place to go to work. Really, truly, the 49ers practice facility is awesome and like such a cool place to go to work every day. He's in Northern California, which is close to his family in Southern California. Remember, he used to be in New York and Carolina. Now he's just, like a short plane ride away from his family or them coming to see him. And if Sam Darnold gets an opportunity to play this fall, he's going to have a chance to do something meaningful on the field. If he ever gets his shot, he's on a good football team with really good teammates and good people around him. Great coaching, Kyle Shanahan as his head coach. I think Sam Darnold's going to be put in a position to do well if he does get put on the field at all this year. Remember, he started his career as the quarterback of the Jets with Adam Gase as his head coach. And you could argue whether you want to, we don't need to have this debate, but you can really look at Sam Darnold's career and say he never really got a great opportunity anywhere he has ever been. And I would imagine that with the 49ers right now, this is the best situation Sam Darnold's ever been in during his NFL career. He's never been on a team with this much talent, this low of expectations of him. He can go to work, do his job, do the best he can, and if he gets a shot, I think he could play really well. I would also imagine that he's likely in the best mental state of his entire career. Again, something about that where there's all these expectations on Brock Purdy. Anything Sam Darnold does is extra. It's kind of borrowed time again, that thing we talked about with Gardner Minshew. I don't know, man. I really want to say this. If Sam Darnold gets a shot to play this year, you never know. Brock Purdy gets hurt, doesn't play great at first. We have no idea. I think Kyle Shanahan's cooking something up where it's like, hey, Sam Darnold, this kid, he's got a lot of potential that's untapped. Never got great coaching. Never was on a great football team. I don't know, guys. I don't want to take it that far. I think Brock Purdy is the quarterback in San Francisco. But if Sam Darnold gets a shot, do not be shocked if he does really well. And maybe eventually could become the guy in San Francisco. I really believe Kyle Shanahan signed him for a reason and thought, I can work with this kid. And I don't know, man. I just, regardless of what happens with Sam Darnold, I think he's in a good place in his life. Like, he's in a great building, great teammates, good coaching staff, closer to his family. I'm happy for the guy. I really am, and I hope it goes well for him. But there's that small voice in the back of my head that goes, Sam could play, and he could play really, really well as the 49ers starting quarterback. Here's a fun question. I think it's a fun question. Who could win the NFL Coach of the Year this year in 2023? Or I guess for the 2023 season, the award wouldn't be given out till January 2024. So here's the question again. Who could win the NFL Coach of the Year for 2023? I have 5 people in mind, but really, I want to start this as a conversation. I've got, 5 names I'm going to throw out there, but to me, I want to really invite lots of conversation. Please write in. Who do you think could win the NFL Coach of the Year this year? And why do you think it's your team's head coach? Really? Because that's all anyone really does. They go, here's why my coach is going to win Coach of the Year. We'll see. But if you have thoughts, I'd love to hear from people out there. The number one candidate for me who could win Coach of the Year, and by the way, these are not in order. These are just 5 people that I gave them numbers. So number A, I guess, Coach A, is Dan Campbell in Detroit. People love a good story. When people give out awards, they want to see, oh my gosh, here's the story. Here's this quantifiable reason how and why this coach gets the award they're getting. If Dan Campbell can turn the Lions into a winning team, make Jared Goff look amazing. Jared Goff, the quarterback who got cast away out of LA, away from Sean McVay and the Rams. If the Lions can win their division, make the playoffs, I think it's really obvious and easy that Dan Campbell would have a good shot at the NFL Coach of the Year. Isn't that coach? If you can make the Lions win, have Jared Goff look like a superstar, that's Coach of the Year to me right there. So Dan Campbell, that's, potential Coach of the Year number 1. Another one is Frank Reich, the head coach in Carolina for the Panthers. Imagine if Frank Reich can win the division with a rookie quarterback, Bryce Young. Rookie number 1 overall pick, a team that wasn't very good last year. Suddenly he makes the playoffs or win their division with Carolina. There's a very real possibility Frank Reich becomes Coach of the Year after this fall. We've got good players in Carolina. Bryce Young could look really, really good. They've built an incredible coaching staff in Carolina. Keep your eye on Frank Reich, potential Coach of the Year in Carolina. How about Sean Payton in Denver? This is probably the guy that should be the number 1 option. If anyone's going to win Coach of the Year, why not Sean Payton? I've been saying for years, Denver's ready to win. I thought 2 years ago they were a good football team that didn't have a quarterback. Then they got Russell Wilson and the wrong coach. And suddenly they've got a good team and a good quarterback, but no coach. If he can take Denver to the playoffs in year 1, and that quickly, take Denver from what they were last year, this disaster of a football team with a quarterback that had lots of doubters and people still don't believe it. If he can take Denver from where they were last year and then become a playoff team this year, not only are you talking about Coach of the Year, I know a coach can't win most valuable player, but you would argue who's more valuable than Sean Payton? If they win and go from disaster to winning and playoff appearance, that's Coach of the Year material right there. So probably the favorite for Coach of the Year should be Sean Payton in Denver. They've got a good team. I think a good quarterback who's historically done great things. He just needs to put them in positions to win and coach them better. So I think Sean Payton's got a really good shot at winning Coach of the Year in Denver. How about Pete Carroll in Seattle? A lot of people think I don't like Pete Carroll. I think I've complimented him a lot over the years. I love Pete Carroll. He creates a great culture, great guy to play for, won a Super Bowl. I have said, what has he done for me lately? It's been a long time since he won a Super Bowl. And, if Seattle does great this year, they've got these 3 incredible receivers, Jackson Smith-Njigba, DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett. I think the offense could be amazing this fall in Seattle. Would Pete Carroll get credit for Shane Waldron's offense? I'm not sure. But if they win their division, make a deep playoff run, I think Coach of the Year is very, very possible for Pete Carroll, who I don't know how many years he's got left. He's the oldest coach in the NFL. And we talked yesterday on the show about how maybe eventually there's going to be a passing of the torch from Pete Carroll over to Shane Waldron, and Shane Waldron becomes the head coach in Seattle. But I think Pete Carroll is definitely in the running for Coach of the Year, especially if they're a really great team and they win a lot of games, win their division, and make a deep playoff run. Keep your eye there. So those are 4 good potential possibilities. That's Frank Reich, Pete Carroll, Dan Campbell, and Sean Payton. Now is the point where I start saying a lot of caveats, because the next guy I'm going to say is an insane one. I want to acknowledge that. It's fun to throw out a Hail Mary every once in a while. I'm not really sure. And I just wanted to have this topic because I want people to write in. I'm curious who you think could win Coach of the Year. I thought last year in Minnesota, Kevin O'Connell should have gotten a better look. I understood why Brian Daboll won it with the Giants. He deserved it. But, Mike McDaniel was another guy who probably should have been in the conversation for Coach of the Year last year. I want to hear from you guys who you think. But here's one crazy Hail Mary possibility who could win Coach of the Year. How about Ron Rivera in Washington? Do I really believe this is going to happen? No, not at all. But let's say it. Even if they have a good year in Washington, the division's loaded. Philly, Dallas, the Giants, they could be a good team and miss the playoffs. So I don't know how the path for Ron Rivera to win Coach of the Year is insane. However, if they do make the playoffs, can you imagine? Let's say Dak Prescott, Jalen Hurts, they both get injured out for the year. The Giants, who have a really tough schedule, just aren't as good this year. Washington slips in, they win that division. And if Sam Howell, their second-year, fifth-round pick quarterback, plays incredible, Coach of the Year is given to someone who exceeded the expectations. They took a team that wasn't supposed to win a lot and did. And Washington's got potential for that kind of story. Now, I don't know if Eric Bieniemy, the offensive coordinator, cooks up this incredible offense. I don't know that Ron Rivera would get credit for that. But man, if Sam Howell and the Washington offense is amazing and somehow that team can make the playoffs, I think you got to consider Ron Rivera for Coach of the Year. I know that's insane. I'm admitting that openly. I don't think it's going to happen. But that's the long shot Hail Mary answer to me is, can Ron Rivera win Coach of the Year? I don't know. Again, I invite you guys to write in. Who do you think could win NFL Coach of the Year this fall? I think my first 4 are pretty great ideas. Pete Carroll, Dan Campbell, Sean Payton, and what was the other one? Sean Payton, Pete Carroll, Dan Campbell, and Frank Reich. Thank you. No one's in my ear. I swear that's myself talking to myself because I'm crazy, guys. Anyway, who do you think could win Coach of the Year? I'd love to hear from you guys. Here's an idea, one I'm proud of. I don't know how it would work logistically. I think it would affect how many scholarships you can have on a team. Maybe you would need more. Maybe you can recruit less. I'm not really sure. But college football is absolutely loaded with great quarterbacks. Right now, this point in time, the amount of quarterback talent around college football is unbelievable. And it's going to help out with the NFL as well because the talent pool heading to the NFL the next couple of years from college football is unbelievable. You're going to see, really what it's going to help is the USFL, the XFL, Canadian Football League, because better and better quarterbacks are going to get turned away from the NFL and start playing in other leagues to get on the field somewhere. And it's going to make it interesting. Part of why quarterbacks are so good now, especially this moment in time, is because training and coaching, the way you develop a quarterback is getting better and better and making advancements. But another part is this, 2020, that Rona year where, remember, every college football player was given an extra year of eligibility because of what happened during 2020. And the result has been we're now seeing super seniors in college football. Sam Hartman at Notre Dame, the quarterback who played 5 years at Wake Forest, one of them got hurt, now is the starting quarterback at Notre Dame. He's entering year 6 in college football. Michael Penix Jr. is in his 6th year in college football as a quarterback at Washington. Bo Nix has already played 4 full years of college football. 3 at Auburn, 1 at Oregon. He's got 1 year left at Oregon. That's 5 years. That's insane. And I would ask, why are we stopping that? Why are we not going to just allow, from here on out, Why not just extend college football eligibility to 5 years? It makes the position quarterback better, makes it more interesting. It's better for players that want to keep developing. Bo Nix could become a first-round pick this year. He could play so well at Oregon that he goes from like a third or fourth or fifth round pick to a first-round pick. But that's only made possible because he's got an extra year of eligibility to keep growing and keep developing. It's good for the game of football. Why don't we give college athletes 5 years? So 6 total because you got a year of redshirt and 5 years of eligibility. What's wrong with that? I don't know why. Let's not pretend college is about school. If you're a college football player at the highest level, you're not there for school. Hopefully you get your degree because as a guy, I don't have my degree. My life's more difficult because of that. Get your degree, everyone. Be smart. Go get a college degree if you can. But, allowing 5 years to get your degree is a very common timeline. Why don't we just extend eligibility a little longer? It's better for college football. It's better for the NFL. It's better for quarterbacks. It's better for the game. And there would probably have to be some kind of system where you have to apply for your 5th year and the college or the NCAA can deny it or not. But I'm telling you, having guys like Bo Nix get a 5th year in college football to grow and develop and become a better quarterback, it's better for him, better for the game of football, better for college football. There's more star quarterbacks as a result of that. And it's going to make the NFL better because there's better quarterbacks going to the NFL that are more ready for the NFL than ever before. I always think about former Oregon quarterback Anthony Brown. I know it's a weird name, and not a lot of people know who he is. He played at Boston College, and then for his last year of college football, he transferred to Oregon. He got way, way better from his years at Boston College to that 1 year at Oregon. And I will always wonder, what if he had one more year to develop and grow? Well, what happened? He's an NFL quarterback. He's on the roster in Baltimore. He's the backup quarterback there. He's stuck around. He's hung around in the NFL way longer than I would have ever thought. Clearly, there's something there with Anthony Brown. What if he had another year? He's so physically gifted. What if he'd had one more year? Now, Oregon fans won't like that because as a result of him leaving, they got Bo Nix. I understand that. But what if Anthony Brown had had one more year to grow and develop and play at Oregon? Could he have become a higher draft pick? Could he have become a player who was looked at? I don't know, but I think you only benefit when you allow starting quarterbacks to stay an extra year in college and keep growing and keep learning and keep developing. It's insane. The numbers people are putting up, part of their career numbers that are crazier than ever is because they're getting an extra year. But I don't know why we got to stop that now. Now that people are going to leave college and anyone who got that Rona year is now no longer, if you're a new guy to the college football scene, you're not going to ever get that year that they got. But look at Sam Hartman. Look at Bo Nix. Look at Michael Penix Jr. These are quarterbacks who should not be allowed to keep playing under the old rules, but because of that 2020 year, they got an extra year and it helped them. It made them better. Made college football better, made them better. It's going to make them better NFL players when they eventually go to the NFL. So I'm really asking. I think it'd be so cool. I saw a video the other day with Ohio State's head coach talking about one rule change he would make in college football. He said, how about we just narrow the hash marks? Why are they so wide? Let's make them narrower like in the NFL. My one rule change I want in college football is let's allow starting quarterbacks one more year, a 5th year of eligibility. It helps college football. It makes look at the Pac-12 this year. They've got 8 quarterbacks who have got a lot of potential and are going to be fun and exciting to watch. I don't think you can lose by having more good quarterbacks in college football. It makes the game better in college, and what it does is when these guys go to the NFL, they're more prepared for the NFL, and a guy like Bo Nix was not going to be a first-round pick last year. He might be next fall or next spring because he's had an extra year to grow and develop as a quarterback, and I love that. All right. There's a video of Carolina Panthers head coach Frank Reich I've seen circulating. It's a list he made while he was working with Peyton Manning. You might know Peyton Manning, legendary Hall of Fame quarterback. But Frank Reich made a list of 5 factors that make a great quarterback. And here they are. Number 1, he said a quarterback should be the toughest guy on your team, both physically and mentally. I love that. I underlined, physically right here. Sure, that's important, and you want to always be available for your team on and off the field. Really, you want to always be on the field. If your ankle hurts, you got to play. If your knee hurts, you got to play. Like, play through pain. You got to be available. Physically, you got to be tough. But mentally is so important. Mentally, you got to be mentally tough to play the quarterback position. On and off the field. You're getting criticism, getting catching strays on Twitter and all over the internet. I guess it's X now. I'm never ever going to call it that other than I'll call it Twitter first and go, oh yeah, X. Ugh. Is anyone using that, by the way? I have no idea. But when you throw an interception, like, one of the best things of my entire life was playing quarterback because it taught me how to handle failure. I don't know if you know anything about life. You fail. It happens. And then you got to learn from it and keep going and move forward. But when stuff happens, little things like, this is such a silly, you're going to laugh at me. But when you play Fortnite, you die. That's what happens. Only one team or one guy gets to win when you play Fortnite. Everyone else dies in that game when you play around. And when you die and get killed in the game, you can't freak out and throw your controller. You got to go, let's learn from it, do better next time. The best thing that quarterback ever taught me was how to handle an interception. You throw a pick, you can't freak out and break down and not be able to play the rest of the game. No, you have to swallow it, move on, and continue fighting and help your team. So mental toughness is so awesome. I love that. That's the number one thing for Frank Reich. Number two is footwork and finish. Footwork is key, man. Like, I don't think people understand how important footwork is when you play quarterback. It affects your timing. It affects how you go through your read progressions. It affects everything. And if your timing isn't right, it screws up the entire offense and screws you up tremendously. So that's number two. Number three is accuracy. Of course, that's kind of speaks for itself. You got to have a quarterback be accurate. Here's what I really like. Number 4 and 5. The number four thing that makes a great quarterback, according to Frank Reich, is playmaking ability. And here's what he means. He means making clutch plays in big moments. When the game is on the line, you deliver. And it's not only that you make a big play in a big moment, it's that mentally you're calm and comfortable and can handle that big moment. You're not freaking out. You're not worried about this or that. The moment's not too big for you. That's what often doesn't get talked about. It's not that people make big plays in big moments. It's that they're calm in a big moment. That's why they're able to make big plays in a big moment. They're not freaking out and losing their mind. Confidence and comfortability. I'm telling you, I watch that TV show Quarterback on Netflix. I watched a lot of Patrick Mahomes, and he seemed so comfortable on the field. That was the biggest standout for that entire show, was how comfortable in a big moment Patrick Mahomes is. He doesn't care. He's not fazed. He's just trying to play football the best he can. And because he's comfortable, it allows him to do crazy stuff and make big plays that Kirk Cousins is in his own head thinking about. He's like, I'm not sure I'm going to do well. He's not comfortable. He's freaking out. He's an anxiety attack away from throwing an interception, quite frankly. Has anyone ever watched, I watched a really good interview the other day, because I did an interview with Brian Simpson recently, my favorite comedian in the world. I was nervous, I'm not going to lie. And I'm not proud of how nervous I was, but it affected me a little bit. And I wasn't too bad. I think I played it off well, and it was okay. But I watched an interview the other day. This guy from H3, Ethan Klein, interviewed Bill Burr. Dude, it was uncomfortable. He was really nervous and really uncomfortable in a big moment. Like, the moment was too big for Ethan Klein. He couldn't handle interviewing the superstar Bill Burr. He's in his own head a lot. In that moment, you got to be calm and smooth and comfortable. And man, the best of the best quarterbacks can handle that. That moment doesn't freak them out. They don't care. Just part of life. They never get unfazed. Their blood pressure is lower than everyone else. And that's what it takes to make big plays in big moments when you play quarterback. Frank Reich's number 5 thing that makes a great quarterback, it's X factor. He calls it X factor. What he means is it's a quarterback who's able to make everyone around him better. You elevate the people around you. You're encouraging. You're accurate, throwing the ball to the right side of the whatever receiver you're throwing to. You're helping people around you. You're encouraging them. You're coaching them up in the best way you can, because every person is different. Some receivers, they drop a pass. You want to yell at them. That's what they want. Some you don't yell at because it really breaks down their confidence. You got to treat everyone differently, managing all your relationships around you, elevating the people around you. Part of that is relationships. And everything I just listed, right? Being the toughest guy physically and mentally on your team, having great footwork, having great accuracy, making clutch plays in big moments, making everyone around you better. Those 5 things, that sounds like the Carolina Panthers quarterback, Bryce Young. That is why why the Panthers were so excited to draft Bryce Young and why it's so easy for them to make him their starting quarterback. He's everything Frank Reich described he learned from Peyton Manning. That's Bryce Young. And I think Bryce Young is physically capable to do stuff Peyton Manning never was able to do. I don't want to overhype Bryce Young, but my goodness, have you seen this man extend to play? It's amazing. If there's one quarterback in the draft this year that I am sure is going to succeed, it's Bryce Young in Carolina. Barring some horrific leg injury and Brett Rippon style, or was it Mark Rippon? Mark Rippon. Yeah, Brett Rippon's the quarterback now. I think he's quarterback in L.A. for the Rams. His uncle Mark, Joe Theismann is what I'm thinking of. Joe Theismann, thank you, the quarterback in Washington. I think Mark Rippon also played for Washington at the time. But Joe Theismann, horrible leg injury, the same a la Alex Smith, right? Unless something insane happens like that, Bryce Young is going to be an unbelievable quarterback in the NFL. I have no doubt of that. And I really am excited to watch this young man play this year in Carolina and play the rest of his career. He was my favorite quarterback to watch in college football. I love Caleb Williams. He's amazing. But Bryce Young's ability to extend a play, make people around him better, oh my goodness. There are so many times where it shouldn't have worked. The play they called wasn't great. He wasn't supposed to succeed, and he did it anyway. I am so enamored with Bryce Young, and I am so excited to watch this young man play in Carolina. By the way, Bryce Young, former number 1 overall pick. We just talked about him a lot. Apparently, he shared today that in college at Alabama, before the NIL happened and you're able to make money for name, image, and likeness, he was driving for DoorDash. I love that, man. That makes me love him even more. I'm a former DoorDash driver myself. It humanizes Bryce Young. It makes me love him even more. He's just more of a real human. I love that he's done that and experienced that, and that's part of his background. It gives you perspective so much when you do that kind of stuff. And I know there's a lot of people listening. They've probably driven for DoorDash themselves, man, and I'm rooting for you in life. I've been in that position in life. And I want you to know, so is Bryce Young. How crazy is that? Bryce Young, number 1 overall pick, going to make millions of dollars, playing quarterback for the Carolina Panthers, won a Heisman Trophy. His background goes back to driving for DoorDash, man. That'll humble you, man. The humility it takes to do that. You feel like a lesser human. You're delivering to ungrateful college kids or these massive, massive mansions with people that have gate codes and they treat you like crap. It's interesting Bryce Young did that. I don't know how much. It sounds like he just dropped. It's kind of during the 2020 Rona year, but man, I just that kind of story. You're like, oh, I knew I liked this kid, and that's his background. That to me, it makes me like Bryce Young even more. This will be really quick, I swear, but I want to give a shout out to Messi. He's played 2 games with Inter Miami, his new MLS team. In that first game, remember, he kicked the free kick to game-winning goal in stoppage time. And now 2 games in with Inter Miami, Messi has 3 goals, 1 assist. And I just want to say briefly, I think he's going to bring a lot of eyeballs to the MLS, man. This is a story that's kind of bubbling right now, but Messi going to Inter Miami in the MLS is a story that is massive. And internationally, I've got a lot of friends globally that are in Europe or South America. They're like, have you heard about Messi? I'm like, yes, I have. It's amazing. So I know there's not a lot of excitement in North America, in the US, but man, internationally, people are like, have you seen what Messi's doing? And I don't know, man. I really think it's going to be good for the soccer scene in America. All right, let's end the show today with questions from Patreon. If you want to support the show, go to patreon.com/Zach Schaumler, patreon.com/Zach Schaumler. As I drink my watered down Gatorade. I mix my own Gatorade with the powder, and I water it down a ton. I just want a little bit of flavoring in my water. Don't kill me for that. If you want to support the show, patreon.com/Zach Schaumler. It's $1 a month. You can donate more if you want to. Please do. It literally pays my rent. It's the first of the month. Patreon paid me. Money goes right into rent. Literally, it's about the same amount. It's insane. I really appreciate everyone out there on Patreon supporting me. I do not guarantee to read your question on the show if you donate on Patreon. My only guarantee is I look at every single question with my eyeballs and I pick the top couple to read on the show. Question number 1, write-in number 1 today, is from Joshua. Joshua says, "Hey-yo, Call of Duty Zach Ops." I love that. I have a question in regards to Ben Johnson, the Lions offensive coordinator. You often say how important it is to have an offensive-minded head coach. I generally agree. What do you think of the Lions situation in regards to this? Dan Campbell, their head coach, is an offensive-leaning head coach. Tight ends coach, worked under Sean Payton in New Orleans, but it seems that right now, the offensive success is due to Ben Johnson, to the extent that it was a big win that he stayed in Detroit this offseason. If the Lions offense can have another great year, should they keep Dan Campbell or Ben Johnson? There's a fairly high risk that Ben Johnson leaves, but Dan Campbell is so important to that organization and culture. We've talked about this a lot. We said, remember when Kyle Shanahan took Matt Ryan and the Falcons to a Super Bowl, they probably should have internally promoted Kyle Shanahan to head coach and said, hey, you can stay on as defensive coordinator if you want, but Kyle's the head coach now. We're not letting him leave the building. Same with Brian Daboll in Buffalo. Remember, you got Brian Daboll left Buffalo to become the Giants head coach. The Bills probably shouldn't have let him leave. The better head coach left. They should have said, hey, I know this is weird, but we're going to elevate Brian Daboll internally to head coach and deal with it. It's really confusing to me when you let a great coach walk out of your building. And so what do you do? Because Dan Campbell is an offensive-minded head coach, but he doesn't appear to be the offensive genius behind the scenes, although I would acknowledge, I think he's smarter than he lets the media on to believe. I think Dan Campbell, I think, often plays the the big meat sack, dumb old football player, but really he's a wizard when it comes to schematics. So let's first of all give him credit where credit is due. But I want to offer a creative solution. I think you need Dan Campbell as your head coach. Remember, he is he set the tone and created the culture in Detroit. And if they're going to win and make a playoff run, it's because of Dan Campbell, first and foremost. Ben Johnson might be the brains behind the offense, calling the plays, coming up with schemes. And I think what you can do is say that there's no limit to the amount of money you can pay your coaching staff. There's no salary cap when it comes to paying coaches. So just overpay him. Pay him a ton of money to stay in Detroit. It's not that complicated. Say, hey, I know, Ben, you want to be a head coach somewhere. What if we just pay you like an asinine amount of money and say, we're going to pay whatever it takes to keep you here? Maybe he doesn't stay. Maybe Ben Johnson wants to go be the head coach in Arizona, this horrible franchise that treats everyone poorly. But maybe you can give, Ben Johnson, Drake May, or Caleb Williams in Arizona. Maybe that's appealing. Or maybe coaching Justin Fields in Chicago is an appealing move for Ben Johnson. So I would say to Ben Johnson, you can definitely leverage leaving to get more money, and I hope you do. But don't be in a hurry to leave a good situation. If I'm the Detroit Lions and you win and have a great year and the offense looks amazing, give Ben Johnson a raise, man. Pay him more than he would as a head coach. Just pay him to stay. You're making money. You can afford it. And I know that Ben Johnson already, he was considering, taking interviews to be a head coach this past offseason. And he said, nah, I want to stay. I'm in a good situation. I don't know that he's going to do that a second year in a row. But if I'm Detroit, I am doing whatever I can to keep this guy here. And I'm including him and maybe give him more responsibility as a coach. Say, hey, you want to be a head coach someday? We know you're going to leave someday to become a head coach, but can you stay one more year? I'll involve you in all my meetings. If I'm Dan Campbell, I'm saying, what does it take to keep you here, Ben? Because we love you. We'll pay you. We'll give you more responsibilities. We'll involve you in decision-making stuff and see what it's like behind the scenes. I'll mentor you to become a head coach when you leave, but how long can we keep you here in Detroit as our offensive coordinator if he's as good as I think he's going to be? That's what I would do if I was Detroit. Pay him a lot, give him more responsibility, mentor him. Be honest about it. We know you're going to leave. You're a great coach. But what's it going to take to keep you to stay, make you stay here? How much money? How much responsibility? What is another team becoming head coach going to offer you that we can't offer you here in Detroit? That's what I would say to Ben Johnson. Marcus writes in, says, hi, Zach. By the way, not Marcus Whitman. We love you, Marcus, but this is a different Marcus. Marcus says, hi, Zach. It's really great to see you back online, and I look forward to seeing you grow as a creator. The NFL 100 list is starting to be released, and quarterback Justin Fields was put on the list at number 86, and it's ruffled a lot of feathers online. I've noticed that throughout Justin's career, he's been one of the most criticized and polarizing players, both amongst fans and mainstream sports media, to a degree that I haven't seen before. I'm a relatively new football fan, so there may certainly be cases that have been worse than his. These are professional athletes, and criticism is expected. But do you feel that people are too harsh on Justin Fields? I find this potent antagonism around Fields fascinating. I feel that a lot of people fail to recognize or downplay how pedestrian his supporting cast was, while also having to learn a new offense. He had what he said is the supporting cast wasn't great and he had to learn a new offense. Of course, Justin Fields has to improve as a passer, but I feel that he isn't being given a fair assessment by a lot of people. Thanks for your time, and I look forward to your continued success. Here's the good news, Marcus. It doesn't matter what other people think. They can doubt Justin Fields all they want. Great for them. I remember watching Justin Fields in college against Clemson. College football playoff game. He had 6 touchdowns. He might have had 7. He might have run for one too, but he had 6 touchdown passes. And I was like, oh, wow. That's the day I was like, pound the table, sold on this guy forever. I would draft him. I remember making that video. He's been average throwing the football. He could have been better as a passer. But again, I like what he said. He doesn't have a lot of help around him. He didn't last year in Chicago. And I think part of why he gets a lot of hate, remember he had that TV show QB1 Under the Lights where he was on Netflix in high school. So that adds a lot of pressure to him. He was a highly thought of quarterback. He went to Georgia. It didn't work. Then he went to Ohio State, a place that you love Ohio State or you hate them. A lot of people hate them. And so all that emotion, plus Ohio State quarterbacks historically, Terrell Pryor, Dwayne Haskins, a lot of guys go there, put up big numbers, and then don't work in the NFL. There's a stigma to playing quarterback at Ohio State, similar to playing at USC. A lot of people doubt Caleb Williams because of quarterbacks from the past that have failed out of USC. It's like, yeah, it doesn't make any sense. Different coaching staffs, different players. How can you compare the two? But people do that all the time. So what I hope happens for Justin Fields is that he plays really well this year and shuts everyone up. But it's also interesting. There's a conversation to be had about skepticism versus hate. I like when people are like, hey, I'm not sure how he's going to do. I understand people being skeptical. I'm skeptical of a lot of people around the NFL. That's my job often, is to be like, hey, I'm not sure about this guy or this player or that player. But you can be skeptical of someone without vitriol and anger and hatred. And I think you're right. There's things I'm sure people are thinking when it comes to Justin Fields that I'm not going to acknowledge or say. It doesn't. But I think a lot of what's going on with Justin Fields is people there's hate going towards him rather than skepticism. You can doubt him all you want, but you can doubt someone without being mean to them or being angry at them or hating them. And I never understand the latter. I never understand the hate or the vitriol. I'm not a person who comments on YouTube videos when I'm angry. I'm not a person who is on message boards bashing people. I never understand people that do that. Certainly I would never send anyone horrible fan mail. I know Justin Fields gets a lot of mean fan mail too. So I don't really know, but what I know is I believe in Justin Fields, and I think he's going to have, sure, some ugly moments this year. He's not perfect, but I think he's going to have a really, really good year and make a lot of people open their eyes and go, oh, we probably should not have doubted him the way that we did. Lucas writes in, Lucas says this. Yo, Zach, how do you feel about the 49ers going all in on quarterback Brock Purdy? I feel like it's risky coming off his elbow surgery and also the fact I think he's one of the most overrated players in the league right now. Yes, he was great for Mr. Irrelevant, but a team competing for a Super Bowl should not be relying on him. I love that they took a swing for Lance and it might not have paid off, but with a team primed for a championship, relying on Brock Purdy seems unnecessarily risky. So are the 49ers relying completely on Brock Purdy? The 49ers made a really smart, quiet move. Right? If you trade for Derek Carr, then it's a vote of no confidence in Brock Purdy. You can't do that. It's too confusing for everybody, especially because Brock Purdy might be better than Derek Carr. We really have no idea. Of the quarterbacks available this offseason, the 49ers made one move that was unassuming and quiet and under the radar. They brought in former top 5 pick Sam Darnold, who's really talented and really good and has never been on a great team with a good coach and a good situation. And the locker room right now, I think, is supporting of Brock Purdy. You know, if you don't start Brock Purdy week 1, and then you lose, players are going to be like, what are we doing? We should have, how about the guy who took us to the NFC title game last year? Why is he not playing, right? You can't do that to a locker room. The locker room has bought into Brock Purdy. He's got to play until he fails. But if he fails, remember, Sam Darnold's waiting there. He's going to be ready. And I wouldn't say that the 49ers are all in on Brock Purdy. If they were, they wouldn't have any competition for him. They've got Trey Lance. They've got Sam Darnold. There's a reason for that. I think you give Brock Purdy the first shot, he probably is going to play well enough. But if he gets hurt, if he leaves any opportunity for a guy like Sam Darnold to play, I think Sam Darnold can come in and play at a high level. And I think that's what the 49ers are thinking, man. I don't think they're all in on Brock Purdy the way you think they are. They're hedging their bets. They are giving themselves a backup plan, an escape pod, if you will. Sam Darnold's their backup plan. And if that fails, they got Trey Lance. I really think that they've got a lot of options at quarterback because of the way they played this. But the worst thing you could have done is brought in a high-profile quarterback to just take Brock Purdy's job. A, that's dumb financially, but B, you can't, it doesn't make any sense in the locker room. It'd be too confusing for everybody. And there wasn't really any great big names available this offseason. The only quarterbacks that probably they could have brought in to help them win a Super Bowl would have been like Derek Carr, who's expensive and overrated, or, you let Jimmy Garoppolo leave. How great was he? Brock Purdy was better than Jimmy Garoppolo was last year. Maybe you trade for Matthew Stafford, but why would the Rams trade Matthew Stafford within their division? That makes no sense. Plus, Matthew Stafford's really expensive, and you probably can't afford that. So the 49ers made this quiet, under-the-radar, low-key move of adding Sam Darnold. And that could, in time, prove to be the smartest thing they've ever done. Maybe it won't matter. Maybe Brock Purdy plays great. They win a Super Bowl. The rest is history. But I'm telling you, if Sam Darnold gets his name called, pay attention. He's going to be ready. The Lemur writes in, I love this name. The Lemur says, what's the deal with Trey Lance? He's viewed as the third quarterback on the 49ers depth chart. Is he still hurt? Have they lost faith in him? Will he be traded? Minnesota Vikings, please, I'm hoping. Thank you, Lemur, for writing in. First of all, the 49ers are waiting to see how things shake out. Also, let's acknowledge the skill set between Brock Purdy and Trey Lance are vastly different. Right? Trey Lance can run the football inside as a quarterback, do design quarterback runs. You're not going to see Brock Purdy running the zone read. So when you're building an offense around Brock Purdy, you need a backup quarterback who can run the same stuff that Brock Purdy does, which is Sam Darnold. There's a reason why when you look at the Ravens quarterback room, they've got a lot of quarterbacks who can run the football and are very mobile. Anthony Brown, Tyler Huntley, Lamar Jackson. They built an offense around Lamar Jackson's skill set, so they brought in guys that have a similar skill set to Lamar Jackson. Not as good, no one's Lamar Jackson, but Tyler Huntley can run the zone read, so can Anthony Brown, so can, who's the other guy? Josh Johnson's in that quarterback room right now. They wanted guys who can move around and run the football. And look, man, I just think that really plays a part. When you're building your quarterback room, part of why Trey Lance is number 3 is because if Brock Purdy gets hurt, you can bring in Sam Darnold without changing the offense dramatically. So that matters. Also, the 49ers are waiting to see how things shake out. They don't know how good Brock Purdy's going to be. We think he's going to be good, but he's somewhat proven, but not totally proven. And they spent a lot of money, capital to go get him in the draft. Why not wait? Just drag your feet. See if you can ever get him on the field again. If he gets a shot. Because the 49ers clearly believed in Trey Lance when they drafted him. There's potential there. No one wants to trade for him. The trade market's non-existent for Trey Lance. And if they end up not using him, then I do hope they trade him. And it doesn't look like they're going to use him, but we'll see. But what I really hope is that Trey Lance doesn't just wither into obscurity and never play football again. Because, man, I want to see him get on the field somewhere. If he's not going to play in the 49ers organization, there's a lot of teams out there that could use his skill set as a quarterback and need a quarterback to play on the field now. I think Trey Lance with Atlanta would be unbelievable. Do you know how many options they would have running the football if the Falcons had Trey Lance? Are you kidding me? I know Minnesota's talked about a lot with Trey Lance. He's actually from the area, went to North Dakota State, grew up in Minnesota. He's a local kid. That would be cool. But skill set-wise, running Arthur Smith's offense they have 5 running backs that they've lined up all over the field in Atlanta. You got two quarterbacks that two receivers. They got Kyle Pitts at tight end and kid out of USC, Drake London at receiver. That's big body guys who go get jump balls. Trey Lance running the Falcons offense would be so much fun to watch. That's why I love Madden, right? Because I can screw around and make up little science experiments with quarterbacks like that. Like, that's what I love about playing Madden is the ideas you have in your head that will never happen, you can make them happen in Madden, and it's fun to play with. So, I don't know. I just hope that Trey Lance gets on the field somewhere, if not San Francisco. Kyle writes in. Kyle says, "Hey, Zach, if you could change one outcome of any Super Bowl, what would it be and why?" I'd change the 2007 Patriots versus Giants. I'm a Broncos fan, and I'd change it for a Patriots victory because that would then be universally known as the greatest team of all time, led by the greatest quarterback ever and the greatest coach ever. It would be similar to the 1996 Bulls 72-10 that won a championship and had the greatest player ever, arguably the greatest coach ever as well. How long are we going? Over an hour here. This will be the last question then. I've got a couple more. I'll save them for... I'll do two more questions. Why not? So Kyle, if I could change the outcome of one Super Bowl, it probably would be that one, that 2007 Super Bowl with the Patriots losing to the Giants. Because in my opinion, that Patriots team, Randy Moss, Wes Welker, Tom Brady, this loaded defense, Bill Belichick, I mean, all of it, that was the greatest team in NFL history, in my opinion. Historically, they could beat anybody. Every NFL team ever, other than the 1972 Dolphins, has lost a game at some point. And the 1972 Dolphins were 50 years ago. The Patriots from 2007 would destroy the 1972 Dolphins 10 out of 10 times. It wouldn't even be close. They could not guard Randy Moss. Are you kidding me? Athletes have changed so much in that time. The Patriots from that team were the best team in NFL history. And they'll never get the credit they deserve because they didn't win a Super Bowl. It's painful and frustrating because, like, man, I really believe that was... for only that argument. Like, you can't make that argument about them because everyone's going to, what about the Super Bowl? But every other great team you can name also lost a game at some point. So it's like, man, it is frustrating for that reason alone, because I really do think that is the greatest team in NFL history, even if they didn't win a Super Bowl, which is so weird, but it's so true. But also the fact that they lost, I mean, God, it was great television, like It really made the game probably better, even if I can never argue them as the greatest team ever, or people always have problems with that argument. But they were, like, put literally any team up against that 2007 Patriots team. The Patriots win most of the time, the majority of those games. Like, you play any team against, you pit any team against that 2007 Patriots team, 10 out of 10 times, play them 10 times, the Patriots win most of the time. Like 9 out of 8 out of 10 times they win those games. They're so talented and so good. Another Super Bowl that comes to mind, the last two really, I was really sad watching Jalen Hurts walk off the football field having lost the Super Bowl. Last year, I was in Arizona with a lot of friends, and I really wanted to see Jalen Hurts win. Nothing against Patrick Mahomes. I love Jalen Hurts, man. And watching him lose the Super Bowl is painful because, like, oh, man, he's come so far. Got benched at Alabama. I wanted to see that young man win a Super Bowl. And then watching Joe Burrow lose was also painful. I mean, these are quarterbacks I love, man. And watching Joe Burrow and Jalen Hurts lose, that sucked, man. That was really painful. I wanted to see them win, and I was not happy at all when they lost. I remember the Seattle Patriots Super Bowl. Malcolm Butler had that interception on the goal line. Instead of running the ball with Marshawn Lynch, they threw the ball. I'm not a Seahawks fan. I'm from the Northwest. I actually, got to be honest, I laughed when that happened. I felt gutted for Seattle. Remember that? Seattle had that crazy throw down the sideline where the ball like got juggled around and the guy's on his back and he catches it. They're down like the 3-yard line. Then Russ throws the interception and you're like, oh. So I remember being heartbroken, but I remember laughing. Like, it didn't hurt me the same way watching Joe Burrow or Jalen Hurts lost. I love Russ, but I wish Joe Burrow had a Super Bowl. I wish Jalen Hurts had a Super Bowl. Maybe they still will. There's still time for them. Phillip Rivers is a guy who all time I wish had a Super Bowl. Phillip Rivers and Dan Marino are the two quarterbacks that if I could change history, I wish they could have won a Super Bowl somehow. But man, it just really goes to show how difficult it is to win a Super Bowl in the NFL and how rare of an opportunity that is. Davis writes in. Davis says, all right, Big Zach with cheese. That wasn't much better than the last one. Davis, come on. You got to figure out your salutation, man. Just steal someone. Say, steal one of the other ones you've liked if you want. But, dude, you're getting worse. Davis continues. He says, anywho, your native land of Portlandia is rumored to be in the running to get an MLB expansion or relocation. Is Portland a good area for the MLB? If not, where would you put a team? If you're looking for out west, I'd go to Vancouver and pair it with Montreal, with a Montreal team out west. I'd way rather see a baseball team go to Vegas, to be honest. It'd be a good place to go watch games. It would be a good draw. It'd be good for the city. I like Vegas a lot. Vegas is fairly clean. It's a weird city, but look, I grew up in Portland. I don't often say that, actually, because I know there's a big stigma around the country when you say that. My family lives there. I was just there for 6 months before moving back to Hawaii. It's bad. San Francisco's worse. I did a road trip around the West Coast, and San Francisco is the worst town I've seen in my life. Like, it looks like a third world country. It's empty and horrible, and it's like, it's not just some narrative politically that San Francisco is like a falling city. It really is truly. Like, I'm not right or left. I don't care. San Francisco is unsafe and dangerous and empty and weird. It's like, whoa, what's happened to the city? But Portland is not well. It is unsafe. I used to ride the Max growing up as a kid, get on our skateboard, ride the Max. Last time I was on the Max, it's when my brother graduated college. I rode the Max with him. A fight broke out in front of us. There was bleeding. There was needles. It was horrible. It was like an insane utopian disaster. It was like, ugh. And I'm not that guy. I'm not over dramatic. I'm not. I try to be honest and straightforward, but I am telling you, Portland, there's a lot of fun to be had in Portland. I go to Portland Pickles games. I love that little minor league baseball team they have. They have pickle margaritas. It's weird and fun. I would not recommend putting a baseball team in Portland. It's just not safe. It's just not a good, well-run city at all. If you want a weird, fun town, go to Austin. Austin, Texas. They clean their city up. It's cleaner. It's safer. I'd say Vegas or Austin, Texas are two places I'd love to see an MLB team. Where there's a fan base that would support it, it would be fun. I would not put a team or build anything really in Portland right now. It's sad that the leadership of that city, I don't want to say anymore, but it's really sad because that was home for me for so long, and it's not the town it once was. And that makes me sad. Last question today, Philip writes in. Philip says, with Kellen Moore going to the Chargers, there has been a debate among football nerds over what or who his influence or style of offense is modeled after. What is your opinion on who we can call Kellen Moore a disciple of? So what coaching tree is Kellen Moore from? He played under and coached under Scott Linehan in Dallas, and the head coach was Jason Garrett. So it's not a long conversation, but Philip, I think that Kellen Moore is a member of the Jason Garrett coaching tree, plain and simple. He's the only member of the Jason Garrett coaching tree, but he is a member of that coaching tree nonetheless. Guys, I love you. I appreciate you. Thank you for tuning in. Read about UFOs if you want. Read the Gardner Minshew article, please. The Wildlife of Gardner Minshew. Ryan Hawkins-Smith, I think is what the guy's name was. I don't remember. It was great. I recommend you read it. Absolutely awesome article about Gardner Minshew. I love you. I appreciate you. Have a great day. See you Thursday. Ba-dum-bum. Bam. We are done.